Hey, I'm Nicolia, and today I'll be showing you block by block how to build a cheap and fast, fully automatic fungus farm. And later on in the video, I'll show you how to modify the design to automatically produce bone meal, switch between fungus types, and more. As this farm uses just 3 hopper minecarts to collect all the items, it's quite resource and lag friendly, requiring less than a stack of redstone components to build, and around a stack of rails. Also, the farm uses more water than this, but you can just make an infinite water source and carry a bucket on you. The main reason why this farm is both so simple and speedy is due to a mechanic called cart-yeeting, where in 1.19 and above only, breaking a cart will drop the cart itself as well as all the items in it, allowing you to empty up to 5 stacks of items instantly and still be able to reuse that hopper minecart again right after to go collect more items. Here I use 3 precisely positioned minecart tracks to cover the entire 5x5 grid that the fungus can spread to, and these tracks loop around so that the cart-yeeters can all be built adjacent to each other. The only blocks the carts don't cover is the center block here where the dispenser is, but this problem is easily overcome by pulsing a piston on top, which pushes off any items that land there. This type of fungus farm, where the dispenser never stops bone mealing the nylium, is called a continuous fungus farm, and these are always quicker than any other type of fungus farm, as you never need to pause the bone mealing to collect drops, such as in this design. Back over at the cart-yeeters, the unloaded items are sent along this water stream where they can either all be stored in bulk or you can filter out the fungus and compost everything else to get around half the bone meal back that you use. Overall, this farm uses a literal order of magnitude less hoppers and droppers than my previous mud-based design, is able to be tiled such that it can produce over 3 million items an hour, and is just less laggy overall. To operate the farm, simply flip this lever on or off, and to switch modes, you can either build the design that includes the automatic mode switching, or just manually break and replace the nylium in the middle using a silk touch pickaxe. If you just want this farm to provide you with a plethora of nether foliage, then I suggest having both crimson and warp nylium in the center, as this will allow you to get a roughly even mix of all the different types of plants you can get from this farm. If you're after just fungus, then you'll want to add 2 item filters per module for each type of fungus, and then the rest of the drops can funnel into an array of composters to resupply around 50% of the bone meal that the farm uses. To make back the remaining 50% of the bone meal, you can build 4 of these simple moss farm modules designed by Hexatron. Now, if you're really fancy and want this farm to constantly supply you with fungus whilst you're, say, at a nether tree farm, then you'll want to build the fungus farm nearby to the nether tree farm, and then connect the on-off switch from the tree farm to the on-off switch of the fungus farm. Now, whenever you run the nether tree farm, the fungus farm will also run too. Also, if you need an even higher spec fungus output for a higher spec nether tree farm, then you can simply build another one of these modules, as they're designed to stack right next to each other. Simply download the schematic in the description and align it against the original fungus farm module like this, and then build it layer by layer. To start off the block by block tutorial, I'll be showing you how to build the base version, and afterwards I'll show you how to automatically filter out fungi and resupply bone meal using composters. To begin, make sure you're facing south or west. If you make the farm facing north or east, then the hopper minecarts won't properly collect all the items, as shown here. First, pick a spot on flat ground to pillar up 7 blocks, and then descend that pillar whilst placing ladders. Then, climb back up to cover the top block with redstone dust, and place a temporary dirt block 3 blocks below you like so. Then place a solid block on top of that dirt and a glass next to it in line with the solid block. Now cover both those blocks with redstone dust too, and then build out 4 blocks to construct this mini glass platform. Make sure this repeater is on 2 ticks of delay, and then place the next 3 repeaters facing away from where we just built our ladder pillar, all set to 1 tick of delay. Then, place 3 blocks directly in front of the repeaters, and now you've just wired the circuit that turns the cart-yeeters on and off. Now, bridge over 4 blocks away from the redstone we just made, and then 2 blocks out like this. Place a solid block on the last dirt block you just placed, and then a glass and a dropper adjacent to it, so that you can place 3 hoppers facing into the dropper like so. Make sure the 2 hoppers in line with the glass aren't pointing into each other. Next, place 2 temporary blocks here and an observer facing downwards. Also, plop down another dropper facing upwards and a composter, which just helps with lag. Now, come around to this dirt block and make a kind of border of glass blocks like this, with water at the end. You may have to place an additional temporary block like this. Here, you want to place an observer on top of the first observer, and then have a note block in front of it and a solid block in front of both of them. Then go ahead and place another observer looking at the dropper facing into a second solid block. This little circuit is to carry a signal to the adjacent module if you happen to build more than one of them. Now next what you want to do is build a 4x5 glass platform on either side of the observer circuit we just made, and also place down the solid block here, which will come in handy later. Take note that the second glass platform has a little triangle kind of shape cut out of it at the end. And this is what your build should look like at the moment. Next, you want to get out your dirt again, as we're going to be placing down 3 more temporary blocks so that we can fit in this upside down observer here. Now place a dispenser this time, directly on top of the dropper, facing up, and then build another border of glass going around the edge of the platform like so. And don't forget to place these solid blocks here too. Also, a little fun fact about this tutorial, in my hotbar at all times are all the blocks you need for building the current section of the farm, and the order they're in is the order in which you need to retrieve them. Once you've built that border, hop down here and scaffold out on some more dirt so that you can place 3 levers on the underside of the solid blocks we placed down earlier. And double check that you've turned all of them on too. Now you can remove all the dirt scaffolding for this section of the farm. Next up, climb back up to the top, as we're going to be doing the only tricky bit of this farm, which is curving some rails. These ones on the end here curve inwards so that the carts all enter and exit from the middle 3 lanes, meaning that if you tile the farm, carts from adjacent modules will never interact. And make sure that all these powered rails are parallel. Now, I've left out a 2x5 area of rails, as these need to be constructed exactly as follows. First, place down a rail here, and then a powered rail perpendicular to the other powered rails. Then place another powered rail in the corner, and 2 more rails all facing the same way. After filling in that gap with the powered rail, place another one adjacent to the solid block, and curve around one last rail here. Then break and replace the powered rail so that it's facing into this solid block. Okay, so from here the rest of the tutorial is pretty smooth sailing. For example, here you just need to bridge out 2 blocks, place a solid block, bridge out 3 blocks, and then place some ice, and then bridge out 4 blocks, but with glass this time. And then come down here and place a button on the underside of the solid block we placed down earlier. After climbing back up the ladder, place a sticky piston facing into you like so, with a block in front of it. Then place another temporary dirt block so that you can place down a top slab as well as some more glass. Here we can make an infinite water source which will help us waterlog some leaves and rails in the near future. Then place down 3 upwards facing dispensers on top of these solid blocks we placed down at the beginning, with leaves and hoppers either side of them. Now we want to simply waterlog these leaves. Now place more glass with ladders attached to them like this, and then have 3 rails that are all parallel. This can be achieved by using a 4th rail to align the middle one. Then we want to lava log 3 cauldrons on top of the hoppers, and then position scaffolding above the waterlogged leaves. Here we can then place down powered rails so that they go up and onto the scaffolding we just put down. Now place down 3 redstone blocks and 4 glass blocks like so, as well as a temporary dirt block, letting you diagonally position 3 more glass blocks, connecting the lower part of the farm to the upper part. Then cover it all up with powered rails. Now come back to the lava cauldrons and enclose in this little area with 2 glass blocks so that you can waterlog these rails. And put down some more temporary blocks too, letting you position 3 upside down observers. Then you can remove the dirt and put down 3 detector rails directly above the observers. Now waterlog these lower rails here and then cover everything up with slabs and stairs exactly like so. And also don't forget these 3 glass here. Now we're going to be building the on-off switch itself, which requires you to first place a solid block on top of this top bit of redstone dust with its own bit of dust on top, and then create this snake of observers with a note block here facing into this bottom bit of redstone dust. Finally, place a lever on the side of this solid block and put it in the on position. Next, come up on top of this note block and place a tower of redstone dust and glass like so. Then build up another layer of glass with a wall on top of this observer. and place pistons on top of the rails facing inwards. And do this for both sides. Now come over to the dispenser in the middle and place an alien on top of it with another one to the left in the direction of the cart-yeeters. Then surround both bits of Nalium with a 5x6 wide platform of dirt. Then come down below and place an open fence gate next to this about to be waterlogged rail. Back up on top, build up another layer of glass with solid blocks placed on every second piston like so. Then, come down in between the solid blocks and use temporary blocks like dirt to place 2 downwards facing observers that are then going to be powering each row of pistons. And also do this for the other side. Then cover up everything with a layer of glass and place a piston in the middle, centered like this, so it's in line with the wall. Now for the finishing touches. Place an observer on the left powering 2 note blocks like this, and then also do a similar thing on the other side. Then extend the dust pillar by another 2 blocks and place down a row of glass blocks like so, with an observer facing into the solid block that would then power the 2 note blocks. Put down a line of redstone dust on top with a repeater set to 2 ticks of delay that's connected up to the pillar of redstone dust using the solid block placed here. Now, to make the 4 game tick clock that runs the farm, we can use a sticky piston that retracts this observer here that will then go on to power both pairs of note blocks, as well as a downwards facing piston, using this line of rails. And lastly, to be able to turn this piston on and off, we can redirect this redstone dust using a button placed directly above the sticky piston. Note, you can't place a button on the sticky piston, as the sticky piston will break the button when it extends. To initialize the farm, place down 3 hopper carts, 1 on each rail line, and then fill up the dispenser with a bit of Bonemeal just to get it started. Now I suggest switching on the farm and double checking that everything's working as it should be. If you do have any issues, I suggest going over the tutorial again, having a look at the world download to see where you messed up, or you can join the Huge Fungi Huggers Discord and ask us for help there if you're really stuck. Also, this unpowered rail here isn't causing any issues, but if it's really bugging you, you can just replace it with a regular rail. Now, an additional feature I added to this farm was that if there's any leftover items on the platform, you can just hit this button here to collect them all. Okay, now that we've done all that, you can either design your own storage system for this or use a very basic one I'm about to show you how to build. These are the additional materials you're going to need for the storage system. Now, as before, I'm going to be showing you block by block how to make this storage system attachment. Start by placing a soul sand directly underneath the water you placed down earlier and build up a funnel of glass around it like so. Then, when you get to the top and bump your head, break the glass directly below the water, and then you can use kelp to convert all the flowing water in the glass tube to source blocks. Now, once you break the kelp, it should turn into a bubble column like so, which is used for elevating the Bonemeal items into the farm. Next, we want to construct a simple water stream. To do this, place down 3 blocks, then 1 ice, then 4 blocks, then turn 90 degrees and place down another 4 blocks, with another bit of ice at the end. And then, just for fun, place another 8 blocks in a line. Then, go back to the start and surround the line of ice and glass with glass diagonally above it. As well as water right after each bit of ice is shown, with a half slab to stop the water from spreading backwards. Then place a roof of glass above the water to prevent any other items from accidentally falling in. To help with accessibility, I've just used 2 ladders here to help get over the item pipe. Now we're going to build the circuit that automatically dispenses Bonemeal. It's as simple as a comparator, a piston, and a couple of observers placed like this. So whenever there's an item in the dropper, the comparator will turn on this 4 game tick observer clock, which will then power the dropper, making it run as fast as it can. These 2 hoppers here are just for external Bonemeal input, such as from shulker boxes or chests. Now we can start building the storage itself, which consists of around 30 chests. but you can expand it to be as big as you like. If you need help with this, I suggest joining the Storage Tech Discord, which is linked in the description down below. Out the back, you just want to place one hopper facing into every pair of chests, like so. Back over by the dropper, place down an additional pair of chests, as well as this cluster of hoppers which all eventually feed back into the dropper here. Now stack up a couple more chests like this, and then we can start work on the composter array, which will take in around 120,000 warped and crimson roots and convert them all into around 11,000 bonemeal every hour. After placing down the first 8 composters, position 4 hoppers on each side with one of them facing downwards like so. Then go ahead and chuck down another 8 composters with a further layer of hoppers on top of those, all facing downwards and into the composters. To finish, place a final row of hoppers, each facing into opposite directions, into the hoppers on the edge. Now we can build up the 4 item filters required for each module of the fungus farm you make. To start, place down a temporary dirt block 2 blocks below this composter and then bridge out blocks like so. Then place a line of repeaters on top of that with solid blocks in front of them with redstone torches attached to the front. Don't worry about this hopper on the edge here getting locked, as the composting system can easily manage without it. Now place down some more solid blocks behind and on top of these repeaters with redstone dust spread across the top. Then plant down 4 comparators that will be reading the signal from a selection of filter input hoppers. Next up, place down a few bits of glass and a packed ice block like so, and then come around to the edge of the hoppers to create a little pocket out of glass to position the item overflow system, also known as a bucket of lava. Once you've got that installed, we can set up our filter hoppers. For this, you'll want around half a stack of each type of fungus. I wonder where you can get those from. As well as a couple dummy filter items, such as these iron nuggets. These filters work by only allowing the type of item in the first item slot to be collected by the hoppers, and then just as the first slot is about to fill up, the hopper below this one gets unlocked, allowing it to transfer a portion of the filtered items below. Now, to set up the water stream that's going to run across all these hoppers, you're going to want to get out your walls again and then place them in a line like shown. Also, place this upside down stair here at the end to prevent the lava from obsidianizing. Then place down a line of glass opposite to the walls, as well as this double chest here, which is used to align the items so that they slightly overlap with both rows of hoppers. To finish up the water stream, put down a slab here and let the water leak in from the cart-yeeter unloading system. In case you want a way to toggle the bonemeal output of both the composters and the external supply of bonemeal, you can attach this simple lever system here, which turns off the comparator connected to the dropper. Also, to make it a bit easier to switch modes by changing the nyllium, grab a trapdoor and a couple leftover ladders and place them down like this. And now that's the storage and auto composting version of this farm done. If you would like, you can run it straight away to ensure that everything's all working properly, and you can just watch as all your prized fungus gets filtered out and stored for further use. If you don't have a moss farm, by the way, this is where I suggest inputting bonemeal. Just remember to turn off this dropper switch when you leave the farm, otherwise it will keep spitting out bonemeal until you run out. Also, a little troubleshooting tip, but if you ever bump and stop one of these minecarts, simply push it back onto the track, or break and replace it back down. Lastly, to increase the rates of this farm even more, you can tile additional modules like this using Schematics. Just make sure you line it up properly. If you are going to do this though, you'll need to add 4 filter hoppers and 13 composter hoppers for every module you add on. At some point, I would recommend using shulker box loaders for collecting fungus, and shulker box unloaders for getting bonemeal into the farm as fast as possible. Okay, now onto the cool stuff. This ultimate version of the 5-wide tileable continuous fungus farm adds on 2 main features that the simple version lacks. Automated mode switching and variable speed that allows it to produce up to 2 million items per hour. The variable speed is controlled by a lectern, but a logic system could be used instead, where if you say have multiple nether tree farms connected to this, you could automatically vary the amount of modules running depending on the demand of each tree farm. This allows you to produce only the amount of fungus that you need, so no extra lag is produced. And then the automatic mode switching lets you harvest a bulk amount of fungus of one type as well. If you'd like to build this design, then you can find the schematic and world download for it in the description below. Of course, you can also find world downloads and schematics for the simple version of this fungus farm, the version with storage, and also the version with both storage and the moss farm attached. For more information on how these farms work, how to integrate them with the nether tree farm, and also how to fix the farm in case anything goes wrong, then I recommend you join the Huge Fungi Huggers Discord, which is linked in the description down below. And that's about it. Thank you very much for watching and have an awesome day.